Talk politics. Talk 1470 and 95.3 FM. WNN.
The following program does not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff, management, ownership of the station. Jay and Janine are expressing their own opinions, and such is not a substitute for psychological or mental health advice. If you are experiencing an emergency, please hang up and call 911.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Momentum Mindset Show, where we're talking everything personal development, coaching, health, and the law. I'm your host, Jay, here with co-host Janine.
Hello everybody, good afternoon. Please join us on Facebook, where we can be found at the Momentum Mindset Show. And if you want to call in and be part of the show, we would love to hear from you. It's 888-565-1470. And if being on live radio is not your thing, no problem. Send us your comments and we will interact with you on Facebook.
Let's create some momentum.
Yes.
And welcome to the Momentum Mindset Show. I'm your host, Jay Farrow.
And I am Janine Davis. Welcome. It's Friday, everybody. Can we get an amen? I don't know what kind of week everyone else had, but I am very glad that it is Friday.
Happy Friday, everybody. And we're talking everything personal development, everything momentum, how to create the life that you want, starting with the life that you have.
Exactly.
And here we are on January 11th, 111, which is 1119. And as we know, we're on the 11s, and what a day to create some momentum. Today we're going to talk a little bit about, what is the momentum mindset after all? I mean,
exactly.
What are we talking about when we say that we are creating a momentum mindset? Well, we're talking about getting your butt in motion.
That's right. Action, ways of being, having some fun, committing to whatever it is that you want in your own life.
And speaking of that, I was thinking about doing something in the beginning of the show, and I don't know how this is going to work, but I figured, because I've been sitting on my bum, all week long. And if you want to talk about creating some momentum, it starts with a couple of things. One is creating, some motion, but also doing something that's a little bit out of the box, a little bit uncomfortable. So I figured, now, this is going to try this. Everybody, I don't know where you are. If you're driving, obviously this does not apply to you. So do not do this, okay? But I want everybody who's not driving and whoever can to just get up out of their seat. Just we're going to do this for a second. Just let's stand up, because we're all going to do something right now.
Shake it out.
And we're going to shake some. I know it's going to shake it out. And I learned this from a very famous personal development guy. And his thing was to do this, and so we're going to do this for a few seconds. We are going to shake our booties on a Friday evening here, and I want everybody out there come on.
But we're shaking it. We're shaking it. We're shaking
I don't know if you
it.
can see it, but we're shaking our booties here on a Friday, because we're here. We're having some fun, and we're creating some momentum, some energy, because we have been sitting on our rumps all week long.
Right, and most of us are at desk jobs of some kind or another, so it's really important to move your body and change the way you feel.
To change your energy, to get into a state to start thinking about what do you want to create in your life. And we want to start with, someone called it a peak state. I'm going to call it a momentum state. And we start talking about what is a New Year's resolution?
Right, we're 11 days into the new year. And that sounds crazy because time goes so fast. But yes, so we're, 11 days ago, a lot of us committed to, showing up in our lives and writing down goals and creating resolutions and all kinds of different things. But, 11 days in, where are we? And the good news is that every day is a new year, actually, if you think about it, because you go to sleep. And the next day, you can wake up and create an entirely different day by making decisions.
You can literally start your day over at any time.
Exactly.
Now, a lot of us, I'm myself included, wrote down some things that I wanted to create in this new year. And some of them are lofty goals. One of them is to truly peak this human, my body. Right. Even though I went after it last year, and I did in a very big way, I want to take it to a new level. So I've been So what I did when I decided that I wanted to become the most healthy, energetic, powerful human that I could be this year, I mean, the first things that I started to think about, well, what am I going to need to do that? What does that even look like? You know, some people are talking about just getting into the gym. I mean, I know what that's like, but I'm thinking about really taking my life to the next level. And, well, that's where I started to get lost, frankly.
Right.
And because I had done some work in the gym, but I didn't know, like, you know, what comes up next. And that's usually where I stop. And I eventually say this where a lot of people stop when they create the goal and a New Year's resolution. I want to go after something, but I don't know how to get there. And then
Exactly.
it's tomorrow, and then
Right. So thank you for mentioning that, Jay, because that's not something that I thought that we were going to get into, but you speak into something really important. So it is very common that we'll stop at the how, and we will drown when we get to the how. The truth is that the commitment and the decision to create it is so much more important than the how. And the how is only a mechanism that you get to in order to stop yourself out of habit. Because the truth is, there are 50 million hows. Like, for example, with your body transformation. Well, there's a million different types of exercises. So the how is really not it. There are a million different types of diets. The how is not it. The how is easily accessible. But as human beings, we get stuck with this question of the how. And I would encourage everyone, if you can, anytime that you feel yourself drawing in the, well, how am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? Stop yourself for a second. Take a deep breath. And really commit to saying, okay, let me get out of this spiral and this loop and start being open to all of the different ways, because there's not only one how. So that's
Right,
just my little coaching tip of the day.
There's not one how. I think if let's pretend for a second that it's New Year's Day. It's now 12:01. Now we're thinking about, now I'm really getting serious about creating some resolution and some goals. And let's say that mine is health.
Right.
And I've never done anything health-wise before, or I haven't. When I'm thinking about this, what I'm doing in my mind now, having gone through some work, is chunking it down, making it simple. Because I want to. If I'm going to think about going after my health like I've never had before, and if I've never been into the gym, you know, what I recognized last year was going for a walk. And I'll speak into this piece. Last year on this day, I was getting out of the hospital.
I remember that.
Because I had gotten my gallbladder removed. I had something freaky happen to me on January 2nd of last year that put me into the hospital because I had a gallstone stuck in my bile duct, and it turned out to be a life-threatening issue. When I got out of the hospital, I knew that I wanted to go out after my health, but I wasn't allowed to. The doctors, they said,
right,
you're going to need to take it easy for a couple of weeks. You're going to need to do some small things, some very, very small things. And for me, doing something small is not usually in my vocabulary. But what I had to.
Jay is allergic to the middle.
I'm
outing him here on the radio. It is true.
I've heard this before. But I had to get into the gym, and I could only go on the treadmill for about 2.5 miles an hour for a mile. I remember the first mile. out of the hospital. But it was an important lesson, because if this is what I'm thinking about doing is going after a goal specifically with having to do with my health, is to do something very small. For me, it was going for that first walk. And realizing that I don't have to go into the gym and start lifting 100 pounds, and I think that I got lost in that, and I think a lot of other people do.
Absolutely, this is very, very common.
And even we're talking about creating momentum, and momentum happens by doing a bunch of small things over and over again and checking them off your list.
Yeah, small things in consistency, in tandem with each other, yield really, really, really massive results.
And I wanted to talk about, if we're going to talk about health a bit on this show, and especially if we're talking about New Year's resolutions, because health involves not just your physical, but also the nutrition as well.
Yes.
It also involves your mental health.
Correct, and your overall mindset. right? Because it's not only about appearance. The appearance is a reflection also of what is going on inside, and we always want to make sure that we're shining up inside. It's not only about the outside.
So if we're going to start and getting a little bit more serious now, because I know that a lot of our listeners and people that I've spoken to have health as their number one, or relationship, getting into a relationship this year as their other. And as I speak to these people from around the country, I say, the first, take care of yourself first. I thought it'd be productive to kind of discuss what I'm planning on doing. And also, what are the small things that happen on a daily basis that give you the momentum to continue on the other goals in your life?
Right.
Because when I started going after these goals, it wasn't just I was going after my health. I call them make your bed exercises. And make your bed exercise, everything starts in the morning by getting out of bed and making your bed. Right. I check something off the list by 4 o'clock in the morning because it makes me feel like I've accomplished something.
Right.
And when I'm going after a goal, to know that I'm going through my day productively really assists me in where I want to go as far as the goal is concerned.
Right. So absolutely, and thank you for mentioning that. That really speaks into the morning ritual, right? So for me specifically, when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is I say thank you. And then I go into prayer, and then I do a slight meditation. And then I get out of the bed finally, which, by the way, I have to confess is one of my biggest, this is one of the things that mountains I get to climb in 2019. My relationship to the comfiness of my bed is something that I probably need a 12-step program for. However, I finally get out of my bed and then I make my bed. So by the time I've actually started creating the momentum of my day, I start the day out with gratitude, because it's become I've become really aware of the fact that not everybody wakes up every day. And I'm super, super thankful for being here. I'm super thankful for every opportunity and every breath I take. So that's Jay shared his, I'm sharing mine. What is it for you? The morning ritual, or whatever small step that you do to get yourself going and to create the momentum from the day, is a really personal thing. We're not here to tell you what to do. We're making suggestions, and I'd love to hear what other people's morning rituals are, right? What sets you up for success?
I like speaking from personal experience, because this is how I did it. And this is so getting back to health for a second. I know a bunch of people have talked to me about they want to improve their health by getting into the gym. And they talk about I'm going to get that gym membership, and they get it, and they get really excited about it. And I think that the statistics that I read, that people use it for about a week and a half before they quit. And it's not because people are lazy.
Right.
It's not because that they don't want to be in the gym. It's just that they're not used to it. Their body doesn't have the habit of gym. Right. And this is what I've found over the last year is the habit of X, the habit of going to the gym, the habit of eating a certain amount of meals a day, the habit of making my bed, the habit and the routines that I create in my life that are the habits of success for me. Now, what I have now over the last 10 months discovered is that success is as individual, I would say the path to success is as individual as your DNA. You have to find out what works for you.
Absolutely.
And I think
integral.
that when people go to the gym and they see other people going to the gym, it's like it's a depressing moment when you see somebody who's already in shape, and then you see them going on the treadmill and they're doing something that you can't do. So what? One of the most important lessons that I had this year is always to honor where I'm at. It frustrates me. I don't always like where I'm at. I'm on myself. I judge myself because I'm not where I think that I should be for being, where I am. However, the sooner that I got to say, all right, I'm okay, not being, able to lift as much as somebody else. And I'm using this symbolically, lift as much as somebody else, that I became okay. And all of this work translates to the rest of your life. What I'm saying for me and for everybody else out there that's thinking about health, okay, yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about that, about the beginnings.
Exactly, because we all start somewhere, right? Whether you're super fit and going for a new goal or whatever. Anyway, we are going to a commercial break.
And we'll talk about that on the way back.
We'll talk about that on the way back. Thank you.
Farrow Law Firm. Are you in default with your loan modification? Has your rate adjusted? We can help. Reach out to us today and we'll put our 10 years of foreclosure defense experience to work for you. Call us at 954-252-9818, online at farrowlawfirm.com, and on Facebook at Farrow Law Firm.
You've been listening to the Momentum Mindset Show
with Jay and Janine. Give us a call at 888-565-1470. And now back to the show.
And we are back to the Momentum Mindset Show. I'm your host, Jay Farrow.
And I am your co-host, Janine Davis.
And we're talking about the New Year's resolutions. We're talking about how to get started, how to brush away the frustrations for whatever you're going after in your life. And we're talking about health. We're talking about going to the gym, possibly for the first time, or going back to the gym. And we're talking symbolically, right? We're not...
Right, because it's not necessarily about the gym. Maybe that's not your thing, or maybe you are already super in shape and you've got the gym completely on lockdown. You're great. This is not your issue. It's symbolic to whatever it is that you are going after.
Right. So if we were talking in the car on the way over here, and we're talking about the one thing.
Yes.
The one thing concept is, let's take a moment. If you have a piece of paper in front of you, let's take a moment and let's write down the couple of things, maybe two, that are your two important goals that you're going to go after this year. I picked my health, let's say, and I picked my business, for example. Mm-hmm. And for my health, I want to be the most fit, energetic human that I could possibly be. And my business, I want to make $1 million this year. Okay? I've written down these things. These are two of my New Year's resolutions. These are my goals. Okay, now I'm staring up at this board. Okay, this incredible Hulk human man and $1 million business. All right, now I can stare at that all day long. But now what do we do? I mean, now what's the next step?
So what is the one step, Jay Farrow, that you were going to take?
The one
step.
Okay, so my one step.
Or the one thing. What is the one thing you're going to do?
The one step commitment was to pick up the phone and make a sales call, which is, for me, the most vulnerable thing that I could think of to do, but I know that it's effective. Picking up the phone and making a sales call to get to $1 million, one call at a time. Whatever that to a referral source or to somebody I know that might need some support. That is the one thing. And for my health, we talked about it in the car. There's an additional supplement that it was suggested that I take for the next 60 days, and I was like, well, it's a bit expensive. and these conversations came up, and I'm like, wait a second. Over the last 10 months, I have not hesitated to trust the universe when I declared that I was going to go after something, that everything that I needed to get there was going to show up for me. So what's interesting is that what came up for me today is like, well, that supplement's it's expensive for 30-day supply of this particular supplement. And I was like, you know what, maybe next week or in a couple weeks when I have something else that I'll do that. Mm-hmm. But this is where I stop, because I know there's something called the Law of Diminishing Intention.
Okay, say more.
Okay, the Law of Diminishing Intention is a lot like erosion. It's like when I have this undeniable passion, desire to make a declaration. This is what I want. This is what I want. Mm-hmm. everything now is going to show up in two different ways. It's going to serve me with what I need to get there, and it's also going to show up why you might convince my human that, no, I shouldn't, you can't do it, it's too expensive.
I don't have time.
Because what am I really saying when I'm saying all that? I'm not worth it. Let's think about that. I want everybody to hear this because this is very, very important. When we make declarations, especially these New Year's resolutions, and we say that we're going to go after something, we're going to go after life, and then you start thinking about the how or the I can'ts, don't want to's, or too expensives, those conversations, those immediate conversations are you or your lower self saying, I am not worth it. Every time someone says to me that I talk to them on the phone, it's like I can't afford the two things, time and money.
Right.
Because those are the two things that are the easiest way to say, I don't have the time and I don't have the money. I don't have the time to go to the gym. I don't have the money for the membership. I don't have the money for the personal trainer. I don't have...
Well, this is where we all stop, right? And as a society, these are the collective accepted reasons why we all stop. And so when you say to someone, I don't have the money and I don't have the time, very few people are ever going to say, really, is that true? What would it take? Or what could you do? Or no one is going to challenge you, or very few people in your life are ever going to challenge you to that. So it's really important to be mindful and catch yourself. Excuse me.
Well, being mindful and catch yourself.
Oh, thank you. This is live.
But it's interesting, though. And there's no accident. So when you start talking about these things,
right.
I mean, because we all have these things come up for us, and when that little experience that you had with the coughing, is because it's powerful to even to consider the things that stop us from going after what we want to go after, because these are the things in the conversations that show up. But each of us have, I've ventured to say that each of us, I'm going to speak for myself, untreated unworthiness. Again, I want you to hear this.
Absolutely.
Untreated unworthiness is the conversation, I'm not worth it, I'm not enough, I'm not lovable.
Well, and then speaking into that, Jay, what happens is that you create a life that makes you right. Because another thing that we have as human beings on many levels is the necessity to be right and to be secure and safe in our environment. So we will then create circumstances and situations in our life that reinforce that very story of unworthiness. And it's something that we get to pay attention to and be mindful of. And this is all part of creating momentum and checking your mindset.
Checking the mindset. So when you have these things come up, like I did today, and I've been the guy that wakes up at 3:45 in the morning. I'm the guy that he does it all, or he's doing all this and he's putting in these 20-hour days. When I went through the holidays, and this is the other thing. When I went through the holidays, I went through a severe depression. I mean, I did. I mean, I stopped making my bed. I stopped with my routine. And this can happen to anybody, no matter how much effort that you have put it into yesterday. It doesn't guarantee your tomorrow's results. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to continue the momentum tomorrow, which is why these little things that we're talking about are so important.
Exactly.
So when I had this thing come up to me today, I have to be I'm mindful, and I'm present to these conversations that come up to say, when I have this pop in my head, the first thing is it's too expensive. I have to really look at that. Do you say, is it really too expensive?
Right. Is that really true, or is that the habit of what you're saying to yourself consistently?
I'll be vulnerable. I'm exhausted. I've been working out for 10 months and had I have a personal trainer for 5 days a week up until about 3 weeks ago. And then we did about 4 days a week, and then 3 days a week. And then today and this week I've gone zero time. I went Monday. Right. And because I've had all of these excuses to come up that, I'm going to do it tomorrow, I'm going to do it the next day. And then it wasn't until I woke up a couple of days ago and I recognized what was happening here. And what was happening here was that my addiction to comfort, my addiction to safety, my addiction to the status quo kicked in. And there's nothing wrong with it.
I hate to, and this is what happens in live radio too. So people may know that Jay and I are very close, and we also work together. So I will also say that there is a truth to that, no doubt, and that's your truth. I get it. And there is a point where you have anybody, not just you, but people have run themselves at a punishing rate, and the body at one point says, okay, no, I'm not doing this. So it's a combination. I don't think it's fair to only say that it's an addiction to comfort and to pain. I think it's also realistically saying your body reached a burnout point, and so there's an honoring there that gets to happen.
This is the balancing, but one of the things that I am very proud of is that I'll tell you what I'm going through.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that I feel like I've stopped. Now, it might very well be that my body's exhausted and I do need to take a time out, and my body's getting fine. But if I'm keeping that inside me, if I'm keeping that secret, that's where momentum starts to die.
Right.
And that's where all of the goals that you're thinking about start to die. And this is why it's so important to have someone that you're accountable to.
Exactly.
And I make myself accountable to Facebook, where I post every single night, and I say vulnerably, this is where I'm at. It's not from a place of it's good or bad or from self-judgment, although I do get frustrated.
Right.
But it really is from a place of I'm really telling myself, to be honest with you. I mean,
we know.
But I'm also telling you. I'm telling everybody that in the sound of my voice is that please hear me. I don't want you to let me fall, because I love myself enough to tell you what's really going on with me.
Right.
And so if we're going to have these resolutions, whatever they are, come true, we got to be, if it feels like you walk into the gym that first day and we know what that's like to get there, you're so brave. I mean, to walk in.
Well, I'd like to share the first time I went to the gym, I started also, working out. And my biggest fear on the first day was that I was going to push myself so far, because I don't know how to not work out full throttle, really, that I would actually throw up and I would be so embarrassed. So thankfully I didn't. I wanted to desperately. I didn't, but that almost stopped me from going to the gym, because even that sensation, like recalling that sensation in my body, was enough. For other people, they don't want to go that first day because they don't want to look awkward or weird, or like they don't know what they're doing, or they're heavier there than anybody else. But I think it's important to know that all of us have these internal conversations, and it gets to happen. But I'd like to acknowledge Jay for 1 second, because even though I'm a woman and I talk my head off, one of the things that I'm not good at that I would really like to work on this year is expressing myself a little bit more and expressing the way I feel in the moment. And this is something that you're amazing with. Like, I don't have that ability yet, and it's really important, but it speaks into the whole accountability buddy, because we are accountable to each other to accomplish what we say we're going to accomplish, or to be who we say we're going to be in any moment. It really allows me, by example, to open up and to really sort of experience and express things that I wouldn't have ordinarily. And I also call you out on things that are sort of out of your wheelhouse. So if you haven't already, we highly, highly encourage an accountability buddy.
And I'm glad we're doing it, because this is where I was hoping that the conversation would go and develop, because we start talking about the New Year's resolution. We start talking about the goals that I have. Then we filter down, and this is when we're sitting here together. We're talking about this, and I'm sharing with you what comes up for me. In other words, I want you to know, as my accountability buddy, I want you to know my triggers. I want you to know my tells.
Yeah.
Like, because I'll hide. I'll manipulate, and I'll look good, and I'll do all these things. I have some people writing me on Facebook about comfort zones, about...
you guys, thank you so much for participating. This is so exciting.
Comfort zones are all about ego. Thanks, Lisa.
Lisa, thank you, and absolutely.
And when that being true, being vulnerable with your accountability buddy, and this is why, if you can sit down with somebody, write down your goals, write down the first thing that you're going to do to get there. But find somebody that you can share this with, because and it's not just about sharing your goals. It's also about sharing what's going to stop me from getting my goals. And we're going to go to a commercial break here in a second.
Yes.
And but on the other side of the commercial break, I want to talk about what some of these things. What are some of my limiting beliefs? Some of my tells. Some of the things that I don't want you to know, and I want to keep secret. That will prevent me from getting to where I want to go. And we could talk about that on the other side of the commercial.
Okay.
Farrow Law Firm. Are you in default with your loan modification? Has your rate adjusted? We can help. Reach out to us today and we'll put our 10 years of foreclosure defense experience to work for you. Call us at 954-252-9818, online at farrowlawfirm.com, and on Facebook at Farrow Law Firm.
You've been listening to the Momentum Mindset Show
With Jay and Janine. Give us a call at 888-565-1470. And now back to the show.
And welcome back to the Momentum Mindset Show. It is Friday afternoon around 5:30 in South Florida. Welcome. I'm your host, Jay Farrow.
And I'm your co-host, Janine Davis.
And we're talking about New Year's resolutions. We were talking about making the goals. We spoke a little bit about breaking it down, chunking it down to something simple to start off with.
The one thing that you can commit to doing every day that will inch you towards where you want to get.
It's the small thing that you're willing to do that's associated with your goal. That one thing. Now, once you write down that one thing, the next step to this process that I found to be effective is tell somebody about it, what you're up to. The following step is, and this is where you got to dig deep, is you got to say, look, this is what's going to come up for me. This is what's going to stop me from going after and from achieving this. Because I've declared my 10 life. I've declared what I want to get out of this year, and I want this to happen for me like nobody's business. And I want you to know that that life that I'm going to create is the life that I want to live. So we're talking big deal. This is something I call it life and death, because if I don't go after that, if I allow that erosion to happen, if I stop going after what I'm going after, that life dies. The one that I want to create, where I see love, joy, connection, openness, vulnerability, fun. And
fun.
And so where I had said before the break that I was going after my health, and there was my nutritionist recommended a supplement, and I was like, that's too expensive. And then and knowing what my pattern's been for like the last 3 weeks about my health, where I've slowly diminished and not gone to the gym this week, I'm sharing with Janine, my accountability buddy, that this is what came up for me, is that it's too expensive. And in the last 10 months, I have not ever stopped doing something because it was too expensive. Now, I want, again, everybody to hear this. Things are not expensive. They're an expense.
Right.
The only expensive thing is not doing it, because ultimately you're not going to have the result that you want. So we're talking about being vulnerable, and I was telling everybody that I haven't made my bed, and I'm confessing this on the air.
On public radio.
And I think this morning I kind of did. I have all these conversations about why I have
a question. What stopped you?
What stopped me?
Why didn't you do it?
Because I was... What did I tell myself, or really why didn't I do it?
No, only truth. We don't have time for what you told yourself.
I kind of liked feeling sad this morning, and I wanted to continue.
Okay, fair. So, guys, this is an example of radical honesty. So I actually happened to be a coach, and we had someone write in and say, it's more than an accountability buddy, and really sort of endorsing where a coach is. I happen to be a coach, but with Jay, I'm not his coach. I am his friend and accountability buddy, and a really no kidding stand for him in life. And that's what he is for me as well. But that was just a real life moment of me putting my little coach hat on and really asking him, going deep and not accepting the fluff, right? So there is a huge power in coaching and a huge power in people who are in your life who are willing to ask you the uncomfortable questions and see beyond the answers that are fluff or that are easy to hear.
It's not easy to tell the truth about what really is going on in my head. It's not easy to live inside my head. I mean, I pat myself for getting out of bed this morning, and actually that was part of it too. It's like, you know what, I was able to get into the shower and shave and get out of bed because I knew that I missed the gym, and these things fall hard upon. So once you start missing, there's a saying about you miss a beat, you lose a rhythm, and then nothing falls into place.
Right. And
that's really, if we're really talking about momentum and goals, for me, I am so hard on myself.
Right.
If nothing is lined up, if everything's lined up in my routine and I miss one thing, if one thing is out of place, because that gives me an excuse to get the next thing out of place, and then the next thing and the next thing, and by the time, before I know it, here I am and looking around and saying that my world does not look like I want my world to look like.
Right.
And so that way, when you're up front in the beginning of the year and you're telling somebody, look, if I am ducking you, if I'm not answering your calls, if I'm not answering your texts, if you feel like I'm not being honest with you, call me out for it. You giving somebody else permission to call you on your game, on your rackets, where you stop. This is if we're really talking about creating the life that you want this year, whatever you're going after. As we're sitting here, we're going through a process.
Absolutely. And you know what? Thank you for being so vulnerable, too, because we talked about this in the last show. I never want anyone to think that we're sitting here because we have it all figured out and we're gajillionaires and look at us, which is fabulous. All of those things are beautiful, and we all want to do that. We all want to accomplish those things, and we want things to go smoothly. Absolutely, we do. But we're in real life. We're in the trenches, too. We are entrepreneurs. We go through the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. We go through the incredible learning curve of that. And there are a lot of questions that come up. I keep on making mistakes. My results aren't exactly what I want. I'm fighting with my business partner. Things are not that great. We're not seeing eye to eye, or this client didn't pay, or this, that, and the other. It can get really messy. But I think the point of the matter is, and even when you stop, and again, thank you for your vulnerability, Jay, even when you stop, it's really important to sort of even feel like that contrast inside is a step from being completely asleep in your life. It's a step forward. And it's beyond guilt. It's sort of that consciousness where you realize, oh my gosh, okay, I may be falling back. And you speak into something really powerful, which is the fear factor of falling back. So I liken it to when you lose a significant amount of weight, let's say, I'm talking about as a woman. People are like, oh my God, you look amazing, all of this stuff. And then you have the conversations with before where you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize I was such a heifer before. Oh Jesus, I can't believe I left the house.
And then when you fall back, or you feel like you fall back.
Or when you feel you fall back, it's that fear factor that comes in. So really, we're talking about things that are real life, and it happens to all of us. And with mindset and momentum, it's really important to sort of take the tools around you of being aware of where you are, being radically honest with yourself, reaching out for help and accountability, yes, getting coaches in your life, and being honest with yourself.
And my biggest thing when I was going into the gym was I compared myself to everybody that was there, and I wanted to be there, and I was like, I wanted to be where they were at. And for me to say, I'm not there yet, every time I walked in there and I was comparing instead of honoring where I'm at and saying, how great is it to be where I'm at, to have the chance to go after where they're at. I mean, I've had some injuries and I've had other things that I wasn't guaranteed to be able to be back in the gym ever. And again, I'm talking symbolically.
Right.
Because I know that not everybody's goal is to get into the gym this year, and not everybody's goal is to go after their business.
Right, it's a metaphor.
It's a metaphor. But even if it's going after your relationship, I spoke to someone last night up in New York, and it was like, well, what are you doing about the relationship with yourself first? Getting back to what we're up to and why it's so important, what we're discussing right now is really the vulnerability part about going after your goals, is that I have these places where I stop. And when I stop and I think about like what is it, what is underlying those stops, okay? I can't afford it is a story, okay? I can't afford that particular supplement. I can't afford the gym membership. I can't afford the personal trainer. No. Because if I be all end all of the conversation is, oh, I can't afford it, and I would just walk away. Instead of saying, what can I create in my life to be able to afford doing X, Y, and Z? But telling somebody about it, say, this is my goal. What are your suggestions? Now we're getting into the mastermind portion, but we're also getting into, this is the story behind where I'm at. I can't afford it. Why? Because, it's my parents' conversation that something was too expensive. Or growing up, that wasn't something that people like us would be able to afford. We're not the kind of people that have personal trainers. That's for the other people. That's for the people on the other side of the fence.
Right. Our excuses go deep.
Right, and they're not even our excuses.
Right. Actually, that's a good point. They do belong to somebody else, and we just adopted them.
Now, when we talk about our limiting beliefs, I mean, I've heard yours, and I've heard stories about your family.
There are quite a few.
and I've heard stories about your family, and I've told you the stories about my family, especially when it comes to, look, I've had this experience with my family where if I share really what comes up for me, what I really want to do, what my goals are, it's 9 times out of 10 it's getting shot down for a myriad of reasons. Now, I'll say this. I know that my family loves me. I know my parents love me. And what they're really trying to say is that they're being afraid for me. They don't want me to feel pain, and I respect it. And I told my dad the other day, Dad, you speak Chinese. I speak
Klingon.
That's even big. I speak Klingon. What I'm going to pretend from now on, Dad, is every time I hear you open your mouth about why something's not going to work, I'm going to hear the words, I love you, Jay.
That's powerful.
And I'm going to take that
really
in,
powerful.
and because that's also for me, I need to understand that that those words, I love you, are him trying to protect me. But when it comes to going after the things I really want in life, when I hear the words, it's too expensive, or if I come up with my own reasons why, sharing it with my accountability buddy and saying, look, I'm going after some big things this year. I'm really going to need your support. Here are my tells of where I'm stopping. Here's where you're going to see me hiding. Here's where you pay attention to me. Love me through this process. But also, here are the stories that I have that aren't going to, the reasons why I can't do it. Right. So again, we would write this down as part of the process.
Absolutely. And it is a process, and it is being vulnerable enough to hear things in a different way. I will share with you briefly. I also have an anecdote from my very own father this week, where I went to visit him, and he literally regaled me from the moment I got into the house until the second I actually ran out of the house. And I got I didn't say anything. I really held my tongue. I didn't say anything, and I called my brother, and I said, it occurs to me that what he's really saying is, I miss you, and I don't know how to say that, so I'm going to say something that appears to be completely the contrary, and I love you, and I want to see more of you, and that's really what he was saying. So we get to understand and interpret the stories from the people who made us or who brought us up, and really sort of understand that everybody has their layers of limiting beliefs, their own limitations, their own things that we choose or elect or not even aware of. And it's really important to be conscious of that, to set yourself up to win.
And what I want to talk about when we come to on the other side of this break is what else is going to show up to stop you. Because it's not just going to be your internal conversations. It's going to be, let's say, the number one thing is family, finances, circumstances. But I want to talk a little bit about that on the other side of the break, and how we use some tools as it relates to our New Year's resolution. So
please stay with us.
Farrow Law Firm. Are you in default with your loan modification? Has your rate adjusted? We can help. Reach out to us today and we'll put our 10 years of foreclosure defense experience to work for you. Call us at 954-252-9818, online at farrowlawfirm.com, and on Facebook at Farrow Law Firm.
You've been listening to the Momentum Mindset Show
with Jay and Janine. Give us a call at 888-565-1470. And now back to the show.
And welcome back to the Momentum Mindset Show.
I'd like to take a second to thank everybody who's listening on the radio and people who are on Facebook watching us.
Yes.
I'd like to give a shout out to my cousin who is watching from England, and I'm just flabbergasted. And really thank you to every single human being who is watching us and participating. It means the world to us. Thank you.
I see Lisa and Angela joined and Lynn. I just wanted to say, Happy New Year to everybody. Eleni, I see you on there as well. Really can't thank you enough for supporting us and listening in. We are stronger together, and this is what this is all about.
Exactly. There's no doubt.
We found something organically through. I was going after a body transformation, and then decided to go after a full life transformation over the course of the last 308 days. And through that process, we became accountability buddies. And then through that process, we are using the tools that we've learned in many, many transformational programs to go after our goals. And now, this being the new year, we have we created it's called the Momentum Mindset Trainings. And even that, okay. And here's let's talk about vulnerably about what where we're at with that, because
okay, this is actually a great example
because we started something back in December.
Yes,
and we were all gun
I'm very
about
proud
it.
of that we actually made that happen.
We had a meet and greet in Hollywood, Florida, and we thought that we were going to be able to start our program. But then what happened? We ran into the holidays. We ran into resistance. We ran into all kinds of conversations that of the first few weeks of the year. The business was not doing what we thought it was going to be doing, and we needed to make adjustments. So we and what we're talking about in this particular segment is life shows up. You're gonna say your goals, and then life's gonna show up, and then you're gonna run into what I call looking good conversations. And then you're going to have what we call escape conversations. And the escape conversations are the things that are the outs. And there's outs everywhere. For me, there's a door behind every other door, and then there's a door underneath the door for me to make a declaration and then run away from it. And unless I'm out in the open and saying, hey, I made this declaration, I didn't have it happen, okay, great, breakdown. We get to celebrate that breakdown.
Where did it go wrong? You get to look back, and instead of just saying mea culpa, mea culpa, mea culpa, you actually do something with the information, because in the failure or in the lack of meeting the target, there's a lot of really rich information as to why it didn't happen. And if you pay attention and use that as a tool instead of a guilt or a shame, which is useless, you can actually get somewhere and really learn a lot.
Now, if we're to say that okay, at this point, it is cool to fail.
Actually, it is. We're living in a time where the wealthiest people in the world will tell you that they only got there because they failed so dramatically.
I mean, I got fired. I got fired by a client today. I mean,
that was a good thing.
Wait. So what? Wait a second on that. What I'm saying is, it's cool to fail. And I know that it's cool to fall back even, because it teaches you something every single time. And I've had to learn this the hard way, that it's cool to fail. It's cool to have the circumstances show up, because every moment is a new moment for you to get up and get back into the game. I had a very powerful conversation with a friend a couple nights ago about just this, about get up, get back into the game. And this is the part where you have your accountability buddy, you have yourself. And this is the coolest part. So what, now what? is the concept. Whatever just happened a second ago, so what, now what? You can still make the same declaration. You can still make the same goal. You can still say, hey, I'm still going to do this. Hey, buddy, you know what? It didn't happen for me. You know what worked, what was working for me was I had a plan. I was talking to people like the nutritionist. I had a plan. What didn't work was my conversations about something being expensive. My limiting beliefs didn't work for me.
Right.
Okay, so what do I get to add to the situation? Okay, well, I'm talking to you. I'm going to make the phone call, or I'll text the person when we get out of this particular radio show to have that happen. And then I feel like, hey, I'm back. It doesn't take that much to get you back feeling like you have momentum. And sometimes it's as simple as just checking it off that list. I have my list. I say, made my bed, made a phone call, checked Facebook, the dishes, walk the dog. Those things that you check off the list. Because when life shows up, those little check marks mean everything to me.
Absolutely.
When I'm looking at my notebook and I'm saying, okay, I checked this off, check this off, check this off. And I'm like, wow, on that list, that looks good. I may not have got to this, and this, but I did get to this, and this. Because that makes me feel like I'm in motion. That makes me feel like I have momentum. That makes me feel like things are possible. And that makes me feel like sharing vulnerably like, hey, I was sad this morning.
Right.
I was addicted to the sadness and I wanted it to continue.
Yeah.
And
truth, radical truth.
Because there's something about me when I get sad is I want to stay sad. But
me too. I need to go to that club also. I think a lot of people, that's what makes it so powerful when you share something like that.
And it takes some time to get out of that, but it doesn't take that much time. When I share with Janine, I'll share on Facebook, or I'll share with anybody. I'm not doing all right now. Has anybody ever asked you like, hey, how you doing? And you're like, not so good.
Awkward. Yes.
And maybe you can't pull that off all the time.
I've only recently started to do that, so thank you. Before I was the queen of I'm fine, dying inside, but I'm fine. I don't do that anymore because it's completely inauthentic and it completely chokes off any real ability to connect. And I won't do it anymore.
It's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
It's really okay. Just like it's cool to fail, it's cool to not be okay.
Right.
And, maybe you don't feel comfortable pulling it off all the time, but to the people that matter, especially your accountability buddy, it's something that you want to say.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm not doing all right today. And you know what? It's cool for someone to say to me, be with that. Because sometimes I don't want someone to pull me out of where I'm at. Sometimes I just want to be where I'm at because I hear all the time, why don't you just be positive or choose joy. Choose joy. Choose this. Okay, I get it. Sometimes I'm not there. Sometimes it's cool for me just to hang out with me being with whatever I'm being with at the time. Because some part of that is part of healing. Some part of that is just being human. I was talking to someone, my barber today, and she was talking to me about being.
Shout out to Sophie.
Yes, shout out to Sophie. She was talking to me about being an observer in her life, and I said, you know what? I kind of like being this human thing sometimes. I really like the roller coaster. I like being in the mix of things. I like the ups. I like the downs because it's all beautiful, And I might, even now in my rough spots, even this morning, I walked out after feeling that way, after not making it, and I was like, should I go back in there and make it and make everything right before I leave here, or just leave it the way it is? And I walked out and I felt that cool air, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. And I was like, you know what? I prefer to just be in my car on my way to work. And I felt better. And that's what I needed to do this morning. Talking about just being radically honest with yourself and with somebody else about these things that you're writing down, about your goals.
About creating momentum and maintaining the mindset, maintaining the awareness, not being afraid of what comes up and who you are, and knowing that you can always keep on going. And this, when you can hold on to that, you've got it. You've absolutely got it. You're so on your way. Just keep going. We'd like to introduce, for the last few minutes of the show, a concept that Jay actually came up with, which I think is really beautiful, which is to acknowledge each other, but also to encourage people to acknowledge the people around them. It's so easy to take all of our loved ones, our coworkers, the people next to you in traffic. We take everybody for granted because we're so busy with everything that's going on, and we're so like me all the time. And it's really important to step out of that every now and then and tell your neighbor, tell whoever. I'd like to thank Freddie and Dawn and our producer and everybody, an engineer, for all of these things, for all of you to just be really sitting in a profound appreciation and acknowledging people who love you.
And I want to take a moment and say thank you. Thank you, and I acknowledge you for being strong. I acknowledge you for walking through fire. I acknowledge you for feeling the fear and walking through it. I see you, and I see you every single day showing up for life. And I see that whatever comes up, you handle it. And especially this week, I'm extremely proud of you. And I think you're doing a fantastic job. I acknowledge you.
Thank you. And I get to acknowledge you because no matter what, you keep on going. And even when you want to quit so badly, you really ultimately don't. And I want to acknowledge you for the human being that you're blossoming into and who you're blossoming into who you really are originally, minus the stories. So it's a beautiful thing to witness. I've told you this on numerous occasions. Congratulations on being a stand for you.
And we'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys. See you next week. And thank you so much for your love and the support.
Thank you for listening to the Momentum Mindset Show. For your hosts, Jay and Janine, we'll see you here next week. Thank you for being real, authentic, and honest.
If you'd like to reach us, please contact us on our Facebook page, The Momentum Mindset Show, or on our office phone line, which is 954-559-6987.
We are stronger together.
And remember, keep going.